Pfizer may have made $83 billion during the pandemic, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't be treated as heroes, especially when they're buying up smaller medical firms and turning them into profit using their media knowledge. Why shouldn't the mainstream media fawn over them as if they're some sort of chemical factory monopolist Jesus? Hello there, you 5.8 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discernment where we look at the objective external facts and we deduce using our deep intelligence what the truth might be while we awaken the great resources that are already latent within us, waiting to be called forth so that we can create new communities together. If you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe right now. It's just one little click away. Turn on the notification bell and don't forget to comment on today's story about how Pfizer, who are broadly presented in the mainstream media for some reason, I don't know if they spend much money on advertising or not, I don't really know, stuff like that, as a kind of charity, really, a charity making medicines for the sick and the poorly and the lowly, but perhaps could be regarded more as profiteering monopolist giants. Let's have a look at the news that they are acquiring more companies every day in order to what? Help people or make money? You watch the news yourself. You decide for yourself. You don't need me to tell you what to think.
Pfizer says it's buying a hematology company called Global Blood Therapeutics for close to $5.5 billion. Pfizer has been on a recent corporate buying spree.
Nice to know that during the old cost of living crisis, Pfizer are on a buying spree. What to do with all this lovely lolly? How did you get that lolly? We'll tell you in 75 years if we feel like it. Give us a look at them papers now. I said 75 years.
Investing some of its COVID-19 vaccine profits. Global Blood Therapeutics makes tablets for treating sickle cell disease.
Oh, sickle cell. I sense a little opportunity for profit.
A group of inherited red blood cell disorders.
Well, that's the mainstream media's take on this. Let me give you an alternative perspective, then you decide which view is more appropriate. If you don't agree with me, you can use your mind to do that. You don't have to panic or anything, just use your own mind. But I bet you will agree with me and you'll let me know in the comments. You'll give this video a thumbs up. So Pfizer has announced the capture, as you just heard, of Global Blood Therapeutics. The acquisition continues a string of deals for Pfizer. Got a big string of them, like handkerchiefs out of a clown's pocket. Pfizer has said it wants to add $25 billion in revenue from business development moves like mergers and acquisitions by 2030. Now, we've told you before, 2030, watch out for that date. You'll be hearing a lot more about that. We've told you before that Pfizer, in effect, are more like a monopolist company acquiring smaller organizations in order to generate profit, rather than the ingenious shoot for the moon organization that CEO Albert Bourla would have you believe that they are. Of course, BioNTech were the company that, among others, like Oxford and all that stuff, developed vaccines. Whether you believe in the vaccines or not, I don't actually care what you do with your life, as long as you're happy and as long as you love one another. Like, when they bought BioNTech, that wasn't an act of medical or scientific ingenuity, was it? It was an act of corporate and financial ingenuity, if anything. Adding Global Blood Therapeutics would bolster Pfizer's rare disease business. The rare disease business. I'm gonna make me a fortune in those rare diseases. Isn't it a problem that they're rare? We gotta make them more popular soon. How would you do that? I don't know, lab leak? Allegedly! Rare disease business, and help it realise a long-time goal of selling drugs to treat sickle cell, an inherited blood disorder that affects 20 million people worldwide. Pfizer tried to develop its own sickle cell drug, but it failed. Can't get our own sickle cell drug. We've developed a sickle cell drug? We'll have that. Will you include us in the profits? This is the rare disease business, not a charity. Rare diseases means plenty of lolly, plenty of green. What about the rare diseases? Yeah, the rare disease business. Rare disease business. It's called rare disease business, not rare disease friends. Pfizer chief executive Albert Bourla said, I wish I'd been a little bit taller. No, he didn't say that. He said, the deep market knowledge and scientific and clinical capabilities we've built over 3 decades will enable us to accelerate innovation and bring these treatments to patients as quickly as possible. Essentially what you're describing there is centralized financial capitalist models. We've been doing this all this time. We've got the relationships, we've got the skills, we've got the experience. We've spent all that money lobbying the government. We own these laboratories, but we also own these media relationships. Isn't that what he's saying? If you don't think he's saying that, let me know in the comments below what you think he actually means by that. The company's estimated Global Blood Therapeutics sickle cell franchise. That doesn't sound right, does it? Like I'm used to hearing McDonald's franchise or Wendy's franchise. Sickle cell franchise. Think of like you are an actual scientist, and let me know in the comments below if you are one, that's like spent your life, dedicated your life to sickle cell research in order to help people that have got sickle cell. And then it just becomes part of some sort of mad game where you know that people that know, a lot of people that have sickle cell are in these developing nations that can't afford it. Fuck them. Because you remember when everyone was telling you that the vaccine was absolutely necessary? Oh, we need it. Nah, sorry. What? It's more like it's necessary for a certain type of person, a certain type of clientele. What kind of clientele? I don't know. Are you getting anything from this gesture? Franchise could reach $3 billion in worldwide sales if the 2 experimental drugs produce positive study results and are approved. You better believe they're going to produce positive study results. Oh, how do you know that? Because we paid for the studies, because we pay for the people that assess the studies, because we fund the FDA. Fingers crossed these drugs will be approved. Well, fingers crossed and touch wood. These are all good techniques, but also this technique. Hello, is that the FDA? Yes, boss. What do you want to know? Approve this new sickle cell drug. You got it, boss. There you go. The problem is that's actually my phone. Analysts also said sales could pick up if Pfizer is able to start selling the drug in more countries and takes advantage of its worldwide marketing capabilities. Well, its marketing capabilities are beyond question. Nick Dearden from Global Justice Now had this to say. There are many who will argue that while large pharma companies do behave ruthlessly, we must accept it because the service they provide is so crucial. But this doesn't hold. Companies like Pfizer behave more like hedge funds, buying up and controlling other firms and intellectual property rather than traditional medical research companies. So they shouldn't be regarded as like geniuses down the lab coming up with stuff. So why is it that Albert Bourla is keen to portray Pfizer as some sort of Willy Wonka drug company? Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. And if you're not, you're going to fucking prison. Let's have a look.
Pfizer's chairman and CEO, that's Dr. Albert Bourla, has a new book. It's called Moonshot.
It was a moonshot. Can we do it? If we're lucky, if everything lines up right, we might be able to buy a smaller company that's already developed this vaccine. Do you think we can do it, Mr. Bourla? Sure we can, Charlie. Can my grandparents get that vaccine? Whether they like it or not.
Inside Pfizer's 9-month race to make the impossible possible, and yes, they did that.
By coincidence, Pfizer spent a lot of money advertising on CBS, so it's really fortunate that we're able to make this puff piece for them.
It provides an inside look at Pfizer's push to develop a COVID vaccine. We're very happy to tell you that Dr. Bourla joins us on the table. It's so nice to see you in person and to have you at the table.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, he's got a bit of a Klaus Schwab vibe about him, hasn't he? It's nice to see any of these people outside of Davos.
You know, when I was reading the book and I was thinking about the title, 9 months is how long it takes to have a baby, too, by the way, Dr. Bourla.
So it's like a baby. It's like a vaccine baby. It's like you gave birth to it out of your money, Dick.
But when you say that you
An equal miracle.
Yeah, yes, that too.
Ooh, slow down with these tough questions.
When you say you pushed your team hard and you admit that you pushed your team hard.
We pushed that team very hard. Get out there and buy BioNTech. Get out there and lobby Washington, D.C. Get out there and talk to Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates.
How hard did you push? What did you ask of them?
I asked them to make the impossible possible, basically. And
in numbers, what does that look like?
It looks like $86 billion of profit.
Yearly, Pfizer manufactures 200 million doses of all vaccines across all manufacturing sites in the world before the pandemic.
When I say across the world, I mean the world where people can pay money for vaccines.
I didn't ask them to make 300 of the coronavirus. I asked them to make 3 billion. When you ask something that it is so out of what is the comfort level of everyone.
Like, for example, stay inside your homes, take this vaccine, take another vaccine, take another vaccine, take another vaccine, take another vaccine. You really need good media partners.
They have to think completely
outside
of the box.
Unlike the general public, we want you to think inside the box.
You sound a little crazy asking something because that does seem impossible, but your team delivered. And along with that, there were concerns, well, they must have cut corners.
Okay, steady, thin ice. Ixnay on the cut corners, nay.
Yes, and that was always what was the guiding principle. We will never cut corners.
The guiding principle of Pfizer is make $86 billion and never cut a corner.
Now, speaking of those vaccines, Doctor, parents of kids under 5 are still waiting for that vaccine. When can parents expect that vaccine to be available?
Oh my God, this is just literally promo. It's literally promo for his book, and for his vaccines. When can we get our hands on that book and on some more vaccines for some littler children? What are the consequences? Does it stop the spread? Is it working? What's the effectiveness of natural immunity? What is the mainstream media doing literally in this interview? This is not criticism of the two individuals. I'm sure they don't write the script. I'm damn sure they don't write the script. What I'm saying is look at the positioning. Look at the way that information is framed. There's no critique. I'm not saying my opinion is right, but I'm saying that my opinion is reasonable and ought to be heard, and that ultimately we should have access to a variety of opinions. And if you have to control the information to the degree that is being demonstrated here, it makes me more concerned.
I believe next month we will know the data. And
Okay.
I think then FDA will move very fast.
You better believe they'll move fast.
I'm a Pfizer girl, just saying. I'm not just saying that because you're here.
Okay, Mr. Baller, this isn't no softball interview. We got some tough questions coming up. How exactly do you get to be so handsome? Should we give vaccines maybe to our pets, to pass us by without asking them? Could I maybe, just for fun, start vaccinating the furniture in my house? Could I please? Again, I'm not saying that the vaccines don't work, but look at what you're seeing right now. You're seeing collusion between the mainstream media, the government, and Big Pharma. That is not a conspiracy theory. It's on your TV set, happening right now. There's no discernment. There's no critical thinking. You can't claim that that's an investigative piece of journalism. They're meant to be in the service of ordinary people. They're meant to be talking to you like an adult. That's propaganda.
Let's hope, Albert Bourla, we are ready for the next thing. We're all asking that because there will be a next thing.
Oh my God, how much stuff can you squeeze into one interview? There will be another one. Is it going to be monkeypox? Maybe not. That's not diverse enough. But maybe there will be a new virus, and I bet you're already looking to make money. I mean, make solutions for that. You better believe we will make some medicines for people of all ages for a disease that's not been invented yet. I mean, happened yet. I mean, released from a lab yet. I don't know how they get out there. That's not my job. My job is to buy up little businesses where people are trying their best to create medicines that work and turn it into a profitable entity. What's so complicated about that? I'm just a guy who likes to shoot for the moon of profits.
We thank you very much.
Thank you so much
For coming to the
Thank
table.
you so much, Nate.
Back to Nick Dearden and Global Justice now. A Stat News analysis in 2018 concluded that Pfizer developed only a fraction, about 23% of its drugs in-house. So in a way, Nick Dearden is right. What Pfizer are is a monopoly. You're talking to just a capitalist. And even if you're into capitalism, and in this context, I'm not saying anything against capitalism. I'm saying, why are you treating that guy like he's some sort of Willy Wonka with a syringe? Now, 85% of Americans, Republican, Democrat, all identity groups want drug reforms. They want control over the pricing of pharmaceuticals, right? You know that already, don't you? You don't need me to tell you that. Back to Albert Bourla. Albert Bourla recently complained to investors about the potential lowering of drug prices through the Inflation Reduction Act. I want to say it's very disappointing that they are choosing to single out one industry. Oh yeah, you like it when they single out your industry for immunity from prosecution, from not having to reveal data from clinical trials. But when it comes to price checks, regulations, something that would help consumers, as we are known, ordinary people, then, suddenly you don't want to be singled out. No moonshots there. Bourla said during a call with investors last week. Pfizer has channeled $70 billion to its shareholders directly through dividend payments and through stock buybacks. This dwarfs its research budget for the same period. Now, I know a lot of people that invest a lot of money in big businesses and own shares and all that kind of stuff, and that's for you to decide what your opinion is on capitalism and the way that capitalism functions as a system. But what this tells you pretty plainly is the function of Pfizer is to give $70 billion to its shareholders, not to develop new medicines. They just do that, the development of new medicines, or the purchase of companies that have developed new medicines, in order to give those dividends. Now, you can say this system works really well and it's producing great results and capitalism is an economic miracle. I'm sure you've got complex and brilliant arguments. You're complex and brilliant people. But what I will say is we have to then acknowledge what we're dealing with. The mainstream media have to know what they're talking to. A profiteer. Pfizer's 2021 revenue of $81.3 billion was nearly double the previous year, almost like COVID was a good thing for some people. Due to its COVID-19 vaccine sales, it's expected to generate $100 billion in revenue this year. And when they say expected, it means they'll have mapped that out. They'll have sold that to shareholders. Their stock prices will be valuated on that assumption. So it's not just fingers crossed, it's wheels are in motion. This year, Pfizer hiked the prices of more than 120 of its drugs, resulting in significantly higher costs for its patients. Fuck those guys. In 2009, Pfizer paid $2.3 billion in criminal and civil fines. At the time, the biggest criminal fine in US history to settle allegations that the company illegally marketed several drugs for off-label purposes that were specifically not approved by the Food and Drug Administration, which, remember, they, in part, fund. So even outside of their approval process that they financially contribute to, they sought to recommend drugs for stuff that them drugs weren't for. I wonder if Albert Bourla covers that in his book, Moonshot. And then there was this other drug that we marketed off-label, and sadly some people died, and we did have to pay $2.3 billion. But maybe, just maybe, if we lobby, we can reduce those fines. Also, we build those fines into our projections for the $100 billion of profit next year. So those fines, they may sound large to you, locked up inside, living in your price hike America. To me, this is literally nothing. Oh, sorry, that's not in the book. Sorry, I said the quiet part out loud. Pfizer spent nearly $11 million lobbying the federal government, including Congress, in 2020. Pfizer is one of the most popular stocks in Congress, with 48 lawmakers owning stocks. But if you think that the fact that Pfizer funds the FDA, lobbies Congress, that Congress people own stocks in Pfizer, that Pfizer pay money to the media companies that give them softball interviews, if you think that controls the narrative and presents Pfizer in a light that might not be entirely accurate, then you, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, are conspiracy theorists. That's right. You're the one with the problem. Looking at all this data and information and putting it together into a cohesive narrative makes you the conspiracy theorist. Why won't you believe in the moonshot? Why don't you reach for the moon? Well, there you go. So my opinion is that Pfizer has undue influence on the media, undue influence on the government, and was able to control the narrative around the vaccine in ways that I'm not saying were entirely untrue. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that the vaccine didn't help. I'm not making any claims. I don't have the experience, the understanding, or the know-how to make those claims. I'm saying that in a system such as this one, it's impossible to accurately deduce what's going on. You're prevented from discerning truth. You're prevented from being free. You're prevented from understanding, because deep down you know your government and your culture wants you stupid, because it's easier to deal with you that way. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up. Share it around. It's important this video is spread around from person to person, airborne. Get it out there. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these and sign up to our mailing list so we can go deeper together and we can build communities together and we can start opposing these systems that seek to destroy us. More important than any of that, although that was quite important, please stay free.